I never thought I'd be the type to believe in ghosts or curses, growing up in the quiet suburbs of rural Ohio, where the scariest things were usually just deer darting across the highway or the occasional meth head rumor from the next town over. But that New Year's Eve 3 years ago stripped away every rational layer I had, leaving me raw and haunted, questioning if the darkness out there in America's forgotten backroads hides things that aren't meant to be seen. I lead a straight-edge life. No alcohol, no drugs, just steady work at the auto shop and weekend hikes to clear my head. So when the nightmare began, I knew it wasn't some fogged-up delusion. It was real, clinging to me like the chill of a grave. The invitation came in the mail, as it did every year, from my buddy Mark's folks. Their place was tucked away in the affluent pockets of the countryside, reachable only by those winding, pothole-riddled lanes that snake through dense forests of maple and pine, where cell service dies and the night sky presses down like a lid on a coffin. Winter had hit hard that week, the temperature plummeting into the teens, turning the air sharp and unforgiving. I gripped the wheel of my beat-up Chivy, high beams slicing through the inky void because without them, the road's twists felt like invitations to veer into oblivion. Trees crowded in on both sides, their bare branches clawing at the sky, whispering secrets in the wind. No neighbors for miles, except that crumbling old cabin I'd glimpsed before, abandoned, or so it seemed, though sometimes a faint, sickly light flickered behind its shattered windows, like a lure for the unwary. Halfway there, on a straight patch where the road dared to level out, my lights caught a glimmer, something pallid and still amid the underbrush. As I approached, dread coiled in my gut. A woman, motionless at the roadside, her back to the woods as if she'd risen from the earth itself. She wore a soiled white nightgown, billowing faintly in the breeze, utterly wrong for the bone-chilling cold that frosted my windshield. I didn't dim the beams, too wary to lose sight of her, but the glare off the fabric hid her details, turning her into a spectral silhouette. Passing by, I exhaled in relief. She hadn't lunged out, hadn't forced me to stop. But in the rear view, under the crimson glow of my taillights, she pivoted slowly, unnaturally, her form locked on my retreating vehicle. Eyes I couldn't see bored into me, and a shiver raced down my spine. Was she stranded? A hitchhiker? Or something else? A harbinger pulled from local legends I dismissed as campfire tales, the kind where lost souls wander these roads, drawing in the living to share their eternal isolation? I pushed the thought down by the time I pulled into Mark's driveway, gravel crunching under tires amid a sea of parked cars. The house glowed warmly in its wooded clearing, music and laughter spilling out, a bubble of normalcy against the encroaching dark. We partied hard, fireworks, champagne toasts at midnight, the ball drop on TV blending with our Midwest cheers. But as guests trickled away, I stayed to help tidy up, stacking plates while unease gnawed at me, her image flickering in my mind like a bad signal. Around 2 a.m., alone in the lot, I fired up the engine. Tire pressure warning lit up, damned the cold snap. It always played havoc with my old radials. I shrugged it off, but her memory lingered. The detour home would add 30 minutes, dodging potential drunks on the interstate. No, I'd brave the back road again. Biggest mistake of my life. Barely out, the tires whined, metal grinding asphalt like nails on bone. The car shuddered to a halt, engine coughing into silence. Stepping out, I was swallowed by the night. No moon, just the suffocating press of trees. Phone light revealed the horror. All 4 tires eviscerated, slashed deep with what looked like talon marks, rubber hanging in ragged strips. Not road damage, intentional, predatory. My pulse thundered. Who could have done this? Out here. Isolation hit like a wave. No signal, no help. The wind stilled then, an unnatural hush blanketing everything. The branches froze midsway, nocturnal critters falling mute. It was the silence of a tomb, time itself holding its breath. A twig cracked nearby, deliberate. Leaves rustled, circling, stalking. Not wildlife. This was calculated, the quiet of prey sensing doom. I see you, the voice came, soft as a sigh, feminine and devoid of warmth, drifting from the tree line mere yards away. It pierced me, sucking the breath from my lungs. No malice but an eerie intimacy that turned my blood to ice. Curl up and die. That's all I craved in that frozen instant. Then, closer. Can you see me? Fight or flight ignited. I swung the flashlight, beam quivering, illuminating her, the woman in white, gown caked in mud and viscous stains that reeked of decay even from afar. Emaciated, skin like parchment over bones, matted silver hair cascading like funeral veils. But her face, oh God, her face was a nightmare etched in flesh, lower jaw half torn away, exposing jagged bone and rotting sinew, yet she grinned, a lipless rictus that defied anatomy. How did she speak? The words formed without movement, echoing from some hollow within, supernatural and impossible, as if the forest itself voiced her torment. Terror propelled me. I ran, feet pounding the road back to Mark's, her pursuit a cacophony of snapping branches and hissing leaves, whispers chasing, "I see you, see you." Adrenaline blurred the miles. I lost her, slamming into Mark's door, collapsing inside as his family yanked me to safety. I spilled it all, voice cracking, while they called the cops and a tow. Crashed in the guest room, but at 3:14 a.m., the clock's glow searing into memory, a tap at the window. Rocks. No, pebbles thrown with purpose. Then the voice, muffled but unmistakable, "I see you." She'd followed, relentless, her presence a psychic stain invading my sanctuary. I huddled under covers, mind fracturing with questions. Was she a vengeful spirit, bound to that cursed cabin, feeding on fear? Or a flesh and blood monster, her disfigurement hiding something demonic? Dawn broke, she vanished. But in the yard, Mark's dad unearthed a rusted blade, edges notched with what could be blood or tire fragments. Hers, no doubt. She'd trailed me to the party, lurked in shadows while we reveled, targeting me amid the oblivious crowd. Guests later admitted spotting a white apparition skulking outside, chalking it to revelers. Cops scoured the cabin, empty but encircled by mutilated wildlife, deer and foxes gutted ritualistically, organs arranged in patterns that hinted at occult madness. She was never caught, dissolving into myth. But the obsessions linger. How did she track me so swiftly, defying human limits? How did that mangled more articulate so perfectly, as if puppeteered by unseen forces? These American backroads, vast and lawless, breed such horrors, isolation amplifying paranoia, turning every shadow into a threat. I'll attend Mark's bash this year, carpooling the long route, but in quiet nights, I hear her whisper in my dreams, pulling me back into the abyss. And sometimes, staring into mirrors, I wonder if she's staring back. I've never been one for paranoia or ghost stories, just a regular 20-something trying to make it in the sprawling suburbs of Phoenix, Arizona, where the desert night stretches out like an endless void, swallowing city lights and spitting out shadows. But that trip back from San Diego 3 years ago, after a late-night flight, left me questioning everything: reality, safety, and the things that linger in the dark corners of America's lonely highways. I don't drink, don't do drugs. My vice is late-night coffee and true crime podcasts, so what happened wasn't some hazy delusion. It was real, and it's carved itself into my psyche, a wound that festers every time I'm alone. My plane touched down at Sky Harbor just after midnight, the air heavy with that dry, desert chill that bites deeper than you expect. By the time I dragged my carry-on to the taxi stand, it was pushing 12:30 a.m., the terminal eerily quiet, just a few stragglers and the hum of fluorescent lights. I waved down a yellow minivan, its paint chipped and faded like it had been prowling these roads too long. The driver, a wiry guy in his late 40s with a face like weathered leather, offered a flat $30 fare to my apartment, a steal compared to rideshare apps. He moved to toss my bag in the trunk, but I insisted on keeping it beside me, clutching it like a lifeline as I slid into the back, diagonal from him. He glanced back, eyes catching mine in the rear view, and something in that look, too long, too sharp, pricked my nerves. He punched my address into his GPS, angled so I couldn't see the screen, and we peeled onto the empty highway, the city fading into the black. The drive was a straight shot, 30 minutes with no traffic, the 101 freeway a ribbon of asphalt cutting through the desert's heart. His eyes kept finding mine in the mirror, glinting with an intensity that felt wrong, like he was studying me, memorizing me. "Where you coming from?" he asked, voice low, almost a growl. "San Diego," I said, keeping it short. "Nice place. What were you doing there?" I mentioned visiting a friend, and his lips curled into a smirk. "Your friend as pretty as you." The word slithered out, his tone too familiar, too hungry. I laughed it off, but unease coiled in my gut. Being a young woman alone with a stranger at this hour sets off alarms no one teaches you to ignore. He pressed on, "Pretty girl like you, traveling solo." I snapped back. I wasn't alone, I was with a friend. His chuckle was sharp, cutting. "Flying alone, still alone, sweetheart." We barreled past my exit, the overpass flashing by in a blur of concrete and shadow. "That was my exit," I said, voice steady but heart racing. He mumbled an apology, promising to catch the next one, but his eyes flicked to the mirror again, harder now, like I'd insulted him. The next exit loomed a mile later. I leaned forward, repeating, "You need to get off here." He signaled, merged off, but not before another glance, annoyance flickering across his face, or something darker. The questions kept coming, relentless. "Got a boyfriend?" I lied quick. "Yes, he lives with me." His gaze lingered, probing. Then, "What's his name?" The audacity of it, interrogating me like I was prey, sent ice down my spine. I jammed in my dead AirPods, a silent plea for him to shut up, and texted my brother, sharing my location in case this went south. No one else was answering at this hour. At a red light, his stare locked on me again, unblinking, predatory, like he could see through me to something I couldn't name. The green glow of the light bathed the van, but he didn't move until I barked, "It's green." The streets of my neighborhood were deserted, the kind of quiet that amplifies every creak and rustle. Another red light, another stare, this one colder, heavier, as if he was peeling back my skin. Then I saw it, a police cruiser idling in an empty strip mall lot. Instinct took over. I grabbed my bag, yanked the sliding door open. He yelled, "What the hell are you doing?" and hit the door's power close, but I forced it back, tumbling out into the night and sprinting toward the cop. He didn't chase, didn't demand his fare, just floored it, tires squealing as the van vanished. That alone screamed danger, louder than his words. The officer, a tired-looking guy in his 50s, rolled down his window as I panted out my story. Creepy driver, missed exits, bad vibes. He nodded, told me to hop in the back. Not a taxi service, he grumbled, but drove me the 10 minutes home. I stumbled into my apartment, locking the door, brushing my teeth on autopilot, and collapsing into bed. But as my eyes closed, a knock, sharp, insistent, at the front door. My heart stopped. He had my address. What if he'd followed me? The knocks came in waves, pausing, then resuming, each one a hammer against my nerves. I stayed frozen, curled in bed, the deadbolt my only shield. Eventually, silence, but sleep was fitful, haunted by his eyes in that mirror, glinting like something not entirely human. Morning brought no relief. At work, my neighbor George called. "Your dad was at your place earlier, trying to get in. Said he was dropping something off." My blood ran cold. "My dad's at work," I said, voice shaking. George clarified, "No package, just a man peering through my windows," his description matching the driver. Gaunt, mid-40s, eyes that didn't blink enough. I called my dad. He confirmed he hadn't been near my place. Panic clawed deeper as I recounted the night to him. He insisted I stay with my parents. I agreed, but needed to pack first. Back home that evening, the apartment felt wrong. The air was thick, charged, like a storm about to break. I've lived alone for years, never flinched at solitude, but now every creak of the floorboards sounded like footsteps, deliberate and close. Packing frantically, I heard it, a low groan from the spare bedroom, followed by a whisper, soft and chilling, "I wasn't going to hurt you." An arm reached from behind the wall, pale and sinewy, fingers unnaturally long, as if stretched by some unseen force. I screamed, bolting for the door, pounding on George's apartment across the hall. He and his wife rushed out, faces pale as I begged for help. We called 911, waiting outside as cops swept my place. The backsliding door was ajar, the backyard gate swinging. Someone had fled. No cab number, no plate, just a vague description of a yellow minivan and a man whose presence felt like a violation of reality itself. The police found traces in the apartment, scuff marks on the hardwood, a faint smell of stale cigarette smoke and something acrid, unplaceable. They canvassed local businesses, but cameras caught nothing. No van, no man, just empty streets under flickering sodium lights. I stayed with my parents a week, my dad installing cameras at my front and back doors, a taser now a bedside companion. I've moved twice since, chasing safety, but the questions gnaw. Was he a fake driver, cruising airports for lone women? Or something else, tied to the desert's whispers of skinwalkers and restless spirits that locals swear stalk these arid wastes? At night, I see his eyes in my dreams, not human but hollow, like portals to a void that knows my name. And sometimes, in the quiet, I hear a faint knock, feel a gaze through the walls, and wonder if he's still out there, watching, waiting for the moment I'm near alone again.